Going on here?
My name is Lift. You call me Lifty because I get lifted. I wrote a book called 420 Things Every Stoner Should Know and Probably Will Forget. And the number one in the book is that cannabis, not marijuana, because marijuana is a derogatory term. I'll explain that to you in a second. But cannabis is pro-apoptotic, and it's also not hazardous to your health. Now, being pro-apoptotic, what that means is that THC, one of the cannabinoids, 64 cannabinoids have been identified, that actually bonds to mutating cells like cancer cells and convinces these cells to kill themselves. Let me tell you a few things about cannabis history. The first Model T invented was actually run to be powered off cannabis fuel, and most of the composite parts for the interior were made out of hemp. I'll tell you a couple other things. Call it cannabis, not marijuana. Marijuana was actually made up by the government because what happened was marijuana means nothing more than the terms Mary and Jane, which were slang for Mexican brothels. Yeah, do not call this stuff marijuana. It's called cannabis, which comes from the Dutch word for canvas. So any Rembrandt, hey, it's none other than Eat That Pussy 445 right here getting lifted.
Fucks with? Huh? No, nigga, I don't fuck with that shit, man.
Don't call me the N-word and don't say that around me, dog.
I'm sorry,
I'm not just. Sorry's a fucking board game. Actions speak louder than words.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it again.
All right.
Fair enough?
Fair enough.
All right, well, the only fair is the fucking county fair. All right, we'll get back to cannabis. And we call it cannabis because it comes from the Dutch word canvas, which means, you know, nothing more than a parchment, which any Rembrandt, Monet, Van Gogh was painted on cannabis or painted on hemp. The Mayflower sails that came over were made out of hemp. Now, getting back to the term marijuana, why it's derogatory, it's a Spanish term that means nothing more than Mary and Jane, which was what came out about the Mexican army going to brothels. They'd go fuck Mary and Jane or go to the brothel, pay hookers, and what would happen is then the U.S. government around, let's say 1930s, early 1930s, they wanted to start scaring people. And at the time, they couldn't call it cannabis because you have to realize in this country, cannabis has been legal longer than it's been illegal. Cannabis has been legal from 1776 to 1937. It's been illegal from 1937 to 2014, which makes 77 years of being illegal versus 1937 minus 1776. Some quick math. Think I'm a stoner? I don't know what I'm doing here? No problem. It's 171 years it's been totally legal. Okay? Under the term of cannabis. Bristol Myers Squibb, Eli Lilly, they all made tinctures for this stuff to treat all sorts of diseases. And you want to know it? It was a great therapy. But then all of a sudden a four-way conspiracy came about to keep cannabis illegal. Along the way, they adopted a new term for it, marijuana, because they wanted to scare people from the influx of Mexicans that were coming in, similar that we have today, that were taking jobs, supposedly, or living a lifestyle that was different to their own norms. So they called it marijuana, a spooky term, the devil's weed. At this time, we started having the onset of things like reefer madness. You have to understand that in 1937, what was passed was something called the Marijuana, with an H opposed to a J, Tax Stamp Act. The thing was, they never issued any tax stamps. And it was a four-way conspiracy between a man by the name of Henry Anslinger, Nelson D. Rockefeller, William DuPont, and William Randolph Hearst. Now, William Randolph Hearst controlled the media, and why he was against it was because he recently reprogrammed all his newspaper presses to print off lumber, a big investment at fixed costs. What happened was that all of a sudden in California, something called the decorticator was made, which made 5 times as much pulp out of hemp stock from cannabis that you can make. So you can make 5 times as many newspapers for the same money. This would have put William Randolph Hearst, who is an equivalent of a modern day Rupert Murdoch, out of business. So that's number one. Number two was Henry Anslinger, right? And this is what happened. Henry Anslinger, he was the guy that you see those old videos of busting all the barrels of booze, right? See, he was in charge of the Prohibition Department of alcohol between the years of 1922 and 1929. Coming around the 30s, the guy's out of a budget. You know, there's no alcohol to bust, right? So he's like, shit, I gotta find something else to be illegal, or I'm gonna be out of a job or have a significantly smaller budget, which in politics means you're not as significant as you were before. So what does he do? He goes, we're going to make this cannabis stuff, we'll recall it marijuana, we're going to make it illegal and start popping people, okay? Number 3 was William DuPont. So he can make over 400 different types of consumable products known to date, probably a lot more, out of cannabis. And so what happened was this guy was making paint, and all sorts of other products that you couldn't use anymore if hemp was legal, because hemp was much more efficient than these other petroleum-based products. Speaking of petroleum, that leaves us to number 4 culprit, Nelson Rockefeller. See, Rockefeller owned something called Standard Oil, and it was about to make a bunch of money off all these new fucking Model T Fords that were being sold that could only run on petroleum products, opposed to the original Model T that was made to be run on hemp fuel, and most of it was composed of the interior actually out of hemp. You have to realize that, you know, people like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson literally had plantations that were growing hemp, and it was a beautiful product. The first law ever on this land was by colonies that said that you had to grow hemp. Pardon me. The first law was that you could pay colonial taxes in hemp. The second law was actually after 1776, was actually passed by the U.S. government, and that said that you had to grow hemp in certain areas. Later on, during World War I, they released a video, go ahead and Google it, the link's below, called Hemp for Victory. And that was all about how they were encouraging people to grow hemp now to save the fucking world, or win the war at least. Now, you know where 420 comes from?
Tell us.
You may think I'm an expert, but neither do I. And that's the beautiful, funny thing about 420 is all of us stoners think that we know what time or what it's for, okay? Everybody's got a different theory. Some people go, oh, 420, it's how many chemicals are in cannabis. It's close. There's roughly about 429. Strands can vary, so that's a reasonable thing. Some people say 420 degrees. It's the temperature at what THC burns at. No, that's actually wrong. It burns at 184. But ignition or vapor is onset at much higher levels. Still, not the right reason. Some people say 420, it's Jerry Garcia's birthday. No, Jerry Garcia's birthday is actually in August. Others say it's Hitler's birthday. And the thing about that, it doesn't make a lot of sense, is why is it people get stoned for Hitler, okay? Then some people say 420, it's from surfers, from when the tides change. No, because the tides change at different times all year round. And then some people relate it all the way back to like Pakistani penal codes, right? That 420 means a con man. All right, well, maybe because the con men were always smoking weed, but still, it's not. Everybody's got their own theories. Some people say it's when kids used to ditch school after detention. Others say it's because it's the tea time in Holland, which might be, but still, everybody's theory is as good as its own. In the comments below, tell us where you think 420 came from. Now, my theory, which is no better or less than anybody else's, is 420 didn't come from FOUR 20. It actually came from FOR 20. From people going, hey, how much can I get for 20? And they go, you know, about this much for 20. Oh, for 20? All right, cool. Peace. Thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to both these channels below. And tell me where the fuck 420 came from in the comments. Thank you very much.